Countdown in the Trump Kennedy Center will sound differently than originally planned. The Cookers, a jazz group scheduled to perform 2 New Year's Eve performances, has canceled. While the group did not give details behind the decision, one band member, Billy Harper, shared in a Facebook interview, quote, "I would never even consider performing in a venue bearing a name and being controlled by the kind of board that represents overt racism and deliberate destruction of African-American music and culture." A New York-based dance company, Doug Verone and the Dancers, is also canceling 2 shows in April, a decision that the head of the company told the New York Times was, quote, "financially devastating, but morally exhilarating." It joins the likes of several stars, including those involved with the Broadway musical Hamilton, canceling performances. We're back here at the table. Collinson, I think the thing that I get stuck on with this is I feel like the Trump administration loves this on some level. In fact, like, read the quote from Richard Brunel, who's now the Kennedy Center president, posted on X. "The artists who are now canceling shows were booked by the previous far-left leadership. Their actions prove that the previous team was more concerned about booking far-left political activists rather than artists willing to perform for everyone regardless of their political beliefs." He calls it a form of derangement syndrome. The arts are for everyone, and the left is mad about it.
Yeah, historically, the Trump administration and the president particularly has welcomed these cultural fights against what they regard as left-wing entertainers. It helps the president come across in his preferred persona as the outsider, somebody that's taking aim at cultural, taboos, etc. And I think you can have an argument about whether the National Arts Center, which is basically what the Kennedy Center is in the Capitol, has had programs that have perhaps trended liberal in recent years, whether that reflects the whole country, but the arts are generally...
No, it doesn't. It doesn't reflect the whole country. It just reflects the masses of coastal elites in the United States of America. That's really what it is here, and or large cities, but generally masses of coastal elites. That's it. Compared to the rest of the country, at least.
A pretty liberal arena. A lot of the performers are fairly liberal, and ultimately I think they're going to have a marketing issue here, because a lot of the people that subscribe to the Washington National Opera or the National Symphony Orchestra, they come from the Washington DC area, which is, as we know, is an area where the president isn't particularly popular. So this whole idea that the president has saved the Kennedy Center, which he said was in real financial trouble, as well as its own, physical infrastructure, that could be challenged if they struggle to get programs. And patrons of the arts who are on the liberal side of politics see it almost as an act of personal resistance of not showing up to a building that's got Trump's name on it.
Yeah, that's basically more than that's all that it is, actually. Like, if you watch, like, I've been like past some of these like absolutely psychotic, deranged protests that you see on the side of the road, and these people look crazy, bro. All right, I'm sorry, they look crazy. And these are the type of people generally that would see like Donald Trump's name, or I don't know, a Tesla, and absolutely freak out over something that they perceive as some type of symbol. This has nothing to do with anything, bro. All right, it says the man's name on it. You don't like the man, so that means you hate the building. I don't understand this, guys. I mean, I'm petty. I've been called all types of petty in my life here, right? But I'm not sure I'm that petty by default here. Like, so for example, I know probably if you have a septum piercing, we probably don't really align very well in any manner, right? You're probably stuck in some random past trauma you've experienced in your life and all these other things, and they're kind of coming forward, and you're trying to express all of this other nonsense here, guys, right? But if that's your case, I get it, right? But I'll still have a conversation with you, even though I blatantly know I'm probably not going to agree with anything you're saying out of your mouth, right? But that's kind of what I want to point out here. You should always have the ability to like deal with people that have different mentalities and ideologies, and not get stuck with there's a name on this building, I hate this building, so I'm no longer going to perform, I'm basically going to lose money. You're not really hurting anyone but yourself, and most likely your bandmates.
Michelle, if you look at the board now of the Kennedy Center board, Trump Kennedy's, I'm not really sure what we're calling it right now. I don't think Congress has weighed in yet, so I'm just going to say that place where people do things. Rick Grenell, Usha Vance, Dan Scavino, Sergio Gore, presume he zooms in from India, for their conference calls. Susie Wiles, the chief of staff. I mean, it is a full-blown, like, we're taking this over, this is ours. The name is just the latest and I think most public version of what has been in place or they've been putting in place now for the better part of the entire year.
Right, and that's the inner circle. That's most of the inner circle, or some of the core folks of the inner circle here. When that name change happened, we heard from one board member who said that she tried to unmute herself and was unable to. And the story we got from the White House was that the vote was unanimous to add the president's name to this. Obviously, there seems to be some dispute about that, but we have seen this president try to put his mark and literally his name on many institutions here in Washington, or there was some reporting that he wanted his name on the Washington, the football stadium that is being rebuilt. His name is on the Institute of Peace. And then there's the renovations that the president is doing everywhere. He's been doing them in the White House. He's been talking about painting the Eisenhower Executive Office building white. It's gray right now, it's a gray stone. And we saw the president posting last week these images of these marble armrests that he wants to install in the Kennedy Center. He'd already been doing other renovations there. This is a fixation on a lot of cosmetic details in addition to just programming that the president, there's been no detail that's been too small for him to be interested in at this point.
Yeah, we're showing you a picture of the armrests right now, which like I could just picture House Republicans going into a midterm election year, like seeing that and like throwing their phones against the walls, wondering why we're posting about marble armrests. It was interesting. There's been obviously a lot of criticism from people you would expect on the renaming, including Maria Shriver, who posted on X. Next thing, perhaps he will want to rename JFK Airport, rename the Lincoln Memorial, the Trump Lincoln Memorial, the Trump Jefferson Memorial, the Trump Smithsonian. The list goes on. Maria Shriver, obviously, with a very real familial connection there. To Michelle's point, like the naming of all the things, why?
Yeah, I mean, Trump considers himself to be a cultural icon. Think about the Trump Hotel, all of his industries, The Apprentice. He thinks that he can put his stamp on U.S. culture and U.S. history by the renaming and remaking of this. But this is a president who feels, one, he feels that he is a cultural person, that he should be leading some of the charge on this, but he also wants to have his legacy on everything that he touches. And that's part of the reason you are seeing these attempts to rebrand, the attempts to build a giant ballroom in place of the East Wing, putting that gold-plated Oval Office sign outside of the Oval Office. He wants Trump touches to be everywhere in this country, even in these cultural institutions.
Michelle, he can though. Like to be clear, I think the one thing I'm not.
Yeah, guys, that's why I'm not even arguing the point. It's like, what do you, I mean, I get it. You don't like it, right? But yeah, he can. And the thing is that, guys, like in the 90s, Trump was, in fact, the 80s also, bro. Like, he was the man. I keep saying this because it is like legitimately true. He was the man, legitimately, up until he ran for president. Everyone loved him. I mean, they always had something to say, right? Sure, right? But they, for the most part, loved him, right? So I hear you, but okay.
I'm totally sure about is the renaming of the actual Kennedy Center as the Trump Kennedy Center. But like everything else he's done, there's nothing that's standing in his way on some level.
At this point, no. There's some that he may
So
not
this hurts
have
your feelings,
done
that's why you're...
himself, but that he may have expressed interest in, or we've heard he might have expressed interest in,
Got it.
such as the football stadium. But you're right. I mean, we've seen other presidents do things like these some White House renovations or things.
So why are we freaking out right now? It seems like they know what it is here, guys, right? They just don't like him. Just understand this here. I mean, I get it. Trump is not very likable. I get that. I grew up in New York in the 90s. I mean, also, I want you to understand this here. He was the man. Everyone loved him, but he's also not very likable, right? He's kind of an a-hole, if that makes any sense here, right? But just understand here. Just say that's the reason why you're like up in arms right now, because again, there's nothing to stop him from doing what he's doing, and the same thing with any other president. So what's the argument about here?
But not on the scale that this president has, and not on this ongoing, it's almost like tinkering. Like every time we go to the Oval Office, we see a little more gold here and there, a little more signs. That it seems like a continuous project for this president.
And I think, Stephen, kind of what I'm getting at with that is this administration has pushed the boundaries on executive power, executive authority on every single issue you can think of, and that was their goal. That is the plan. They want the fight if the fight's going to come. They've also proven that a lot of the norms or the guardrails in Washington that prevented things like this were just that. norms or guardrails. There weren't statutory elements barring this. And that includes the Smithsonian, which got another letter from Vince Haley, domestic policy advisor, Russ Vogt, the OMB, very powerful OMB director, saying, look, 60% of your funding is from appropriations. OMB's got a pretty big role in that. We have a lot more requests that we want you to answer. Like, they can do this stuff because they can control the funding on some level.
Yeah, and I think previous presidents that you and I have covered, for example, were well aware that they had the power, but most of them decided not to use it because they considered, well, if the president becomes too powerful, then you're creating all sorts of other constitutional questions. What
Moderately
the Trump
valid.
administration has done is it's identified those stress points where it can push and get very little resistance. I think it will be very interesting in future to see a Democratic president come in. They're going to be under a lot of pressure, especially from the progressive wing of the party, to use exactly the same methods that the Trump administration has used to push their priorities, which perhaps previous Democratic presidents decided they didn't have the power to do. Remember on the issue of the Dreamers.
I've kind of said this
Barack Obama
pretty
once
often
said, "I
here
just can't,
about opening the door for things.
sign my name and change the law." Well, that's exactly what President Trump has been doing for the last 11 months. And I think it's a good chance that if you don't have a reaction from Congress pulling back some of that power, the next Democratic president is going to use some of the same tools, although perhaps not to the same extreme extent.
And we'll certainly have pressure to do so by the Democratic base. I keep thinking in my head, there's this famous Mitch McConnell speech.
Okay. Listen. This is just like an opinion piece. I thought you guys sent me something that was going to be absolutely intriguing here. I'm not saying this specifically wasn't, but this was just an opinion piece, and definitely coming from like a completely separate, like deeper echo chamber. Even though they're trying to act like it's not the case here. But here's the thing, guys. The president is going to do basically what the president does, right? It is what it is here. And he's right here. The guy who was speaking here, completely right. The more that Trump does, that's kind of, I guess, like out of the realm of normalcy, let's say, the more likely, if Democrats ever kind of get back into office, right? Then if that's the case, then they're probably going to utilize a good amount of the things that Trump also has utilized. And they're going to be pushed to by the extremist section of their group, right? Which seems to be kind of the majority of them, bro.
Guys, do you want to watch movies with me? I never actually thought to like promote it over here, guys. But if you guys do want to watch it, guys, we have hundreds of movies, and I mean hundreds of movies that we've reacted to. You guys can come watch them with me if you want to, along with many TV shows. Currently, we're working on the show Dexter, along with Vikings, and we have a lot of series that are already completed. But if you guys do want to watch it with me, the link is in the description. Everything's available at the second tier. But of course, if that's not your thing, guys, don't worry. Right? Listen, like and subscribe.